Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you are watching from. Lately, I've been having a lot of questions. I've been asking myself, a lot of questions, and I felt the need to come on here because I believe there are others like myself who also have been asking these same questions. I decided to go on a quest to find answers to my questions, and I thought of sharing this journey with you. Come along and with me today to unravel some of the questions are two amazing people. These are people that I admire. These are people that I look up to, people that I've actually learned a lot from. And I believe that it'll be a blessing to you also. So I do have this amazing gentleman in the studio with me today, and I'll just allow them to introduce themselves.
My name is Michael Chikodiri from Nigeria. I'm a graduate of engineering and I currently live in Moscow. Yeah.
I was waiting to hear I'm a child of God. I didn't hear that. Did we?
And I am a child of God, of course,
Exactly.
certainly. The best of them all.
And we hope. Yeah, thank you very much for hosting me.
You're
I'm
welcome.
honored to be here. My name is Blessings. Yeah, and I'm a civil engineer by profession, a Bible study leader. I love everything about Jesus, any discussion about God, I'll be there.
Well, we had it. Any discussion about Jesus, any discussion about God, we will be there. So, to my first question of the day, do you believe in Jesus?
Yes, I do believe in.
Or better still, let me ask my question this way. Growing up in our households, right, we used to hear the blood of Jesus, in the name of Jesus. That name was such a common name. For me, I was hearing that name when a cup, breaks, when a plate breaks, when a dog barks. Yeah, so basically, you said you believe in Jesus. Why do you believe in Jesus? Who is this man?
Um, like you pointed out, we grew up hearing the name Jesus, and it became more a part of us. Yeah, so I believe people, when they get to that level where they can question things, they do question things, and so they get the conviction themselves. I would say I started believing in Jesus after I did an in-depth study in the Bible to actually find out, okay, who is this person that basically everyone talks about, both people who believe in him and those who do not believe in him. The littlest thing can happen and someone shouts Jesus just like that, and yeah. So I actually had to search the scriptures to find out, okay, who is this man? And after finding out who the man was, what he did, what he stood for, his philosophy towards life, first of all, and all he embodies as well. I got that conviction for myself, just like when he asked his disciples, "Who do you say I am?" By the time I was done with the number of things I did, I saw him throwing that same question to me, "Who do you think I am?" And I believe from there stemmed my belief in him. So, yeah.
Well, I kind of relate with that a little because, though for me, yes, I have done some studies about that, but not that in depth. And that is why we are all here, because I'm very curious about this man, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in this. So we would move on to our next panelist. Who is Jesus? Who is this man?
Who is Jesus? That's a very interesting question that even I myself have tried to answer for a long time now in my walk of faith. I'm a proud Christian, so yeah. I'll start with my background in my walk of faith, right? From childhood. Firstly, why am I Christian to begin with? Why do I follow Jesus to begin with? The honest truth is that it's because I was born in a Christian family with Christian parents who made it an ordeal to be in church every Sunday. As a little child, you had to be in Sunday school. Every Sunday, you had to learn about this Jesus. You heard these stories of old, which in a way are like, to some other people, they are like legend. And to a child, they're just stories that amuse you. So you hear about the story of Adam and Eve, you hear about the stories of Noah and the ark, you hear about the stories of Abraham and all the heroes of faith, right? And Jesus is among those great figures with that prominent story of his own. So the initial journey, my initial journey of faith and walking with Jesus can stem from childhood because of the parents I had and the background that we were given. And the older I grew, I had my own special, unique encounter, which would be a story for another day, which after that day, I wanted to know more about what I believed in. I was very young by then. I think I was 14. Yeah, so I asked myself, like, what do I believe in? And why do I believe what I believe? What is my faith? What is faith? What is my faith? What is it based on? What is its foundation? So I started reading the Bible, was the first material that I turned to. I started reading it more intentionally, not just a little boy reading stories, but a little boy on a quest for truth. And I can't say that I uncovered everything I needed to uncover immediately, but it's been a journey ever since of uncovering truth about this faith, this Jesus. And of course, Jesus has been one of, if not the most prominent topic I've had to deal with on an individual level, asking the same question to myself. Who is Jesus? Who do I say Jesus is? Now, I've read some scriptures, for example, when Jesus threw that same question at his disciples, right? When he said, of course, his disciples brought, he said to say, who do the people say I am? And then his disciples had a response to say, okay, some say you are Elijah, some say you are this and you are that. And then he threw the same question at them. He says, what do you say I am? Then they also had their own response. The one who responded was Peter. That was Matthew 16, verse, I think, 16 to 17. And then he was like, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus responds by saying, blessed are you, Simon Barjona, for flesh and blood has not revealed these things to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Which sort of felt like Jesus was affirming that response. He was approving the response that he got from Peter. And those are the revelations I've been seeking myself. Like, okay, Peter had this revelation that he shared with Jesus, and it's been presented, it's been shared with the rest of the world. So now I don't have to work as hard because there was a human being who got that revelation that I can learn from about Jesus. So uncovering that revelation on my own is also another thing, like understanding it. Quite all right, I can understand, I can read the words that say, He is the Christ, the Son of the living God. But what does that mean to me? So all these are some of the questions that I've been exploring. I may not have the answers, like the direct answers to all the questions that you ask me today, but those I have uncovered, I'll share.
Okay, quite interesting, right? So, for me, it got to a time in my life where I used to wonder, like, okay, I have read about this, this particular man in some kind of a book, right? And I believe that we all read like books, like, general people write books. We walk into the bookstore, we pick a book by the shelves, and we begin to read, and we believe the things that are written in the book. But for some reason, I was finding it like a bit difficult to believe that there was this man called Jesus who walked this earth with us. It's easier when I go to the bookstore and pick a book about Billy Graham, right? Or I pick a book about, all those men of old. Nelson Mandela, he was a president. We believe it is written in the history books that, oh, this man walked the earth. He did great. And there are many men that walked on the earth that did like greater things, greater stuff. But then how easy was for you to believe that this man called Jesus, like really, is that powerful of a man to the extent that he can give me salvation, though there were other great men out there also.
Okay. How I can respond to that, first of all, is from my own studies, right? My own journey of research and trying to understand who Jesus really is. So I'll share from the little I've gathered so far. I had to understand Jesus, number one, from a very simplistic point of view. Before we even start talking about his greatness and all these mighty things that he is known for, we had to establish, like, did he even exist? Is he a myth? So these are some of the things I had to like wonder about. So you go about some of the basic information that is given about a person. Like you and I, we have basic information. We are registered under a certain nation, right? We have an identity number. We have all sorts of documents that carry our identity that I can refer to get a few basic information about you, like where you come from, where you were born, and whatnot. That just validates your existence and your belonging. So you exist and you belong to a certain country. So such information is also available about Jesus, and it's in the Bible. When you open the scriptures, you get to see the biological background of Jesus. In the writings, there are books in the Bible that we call the Gospels. The first of which is Matthew, right? If you open the book of Matthew, that's Matthew chapter 1. The first verses are about the genealogy of Jesus Christ, his biological background, where he came from. So you can trace his origin to the family line of David, the King David, the famous David who slain Goliath. That's the family line. That's the family line that Jesus came from. It goes all the way back to Abraham and the child of Adam called Seth. So I had to get a bit of a biological background about him. Matthew talks about it, Luke talks about it, and then apart from just getting a biological background, you get a geographical background, like in what era was he born. Like you do a historical research, you try to go the historical way or scientific way as well, like in which period of time is he claimed to have existed. Now, his existence wasn't that much of a problem to actually prove, because the dates and time you and I use are measured by his existence. Right now we are in the year 2005 AD. He literally defined the measure of time that even people who are not Christians, who may not claim to be Christians, but actually use it. There are also periods of time in the BC era, or simplified as BC. So definitely his existence for me was beyond question. Like there's no way a myth would define such a big quantity in human life. We're talking about a measure of years here. We have a lot of calendars. You've got the Gregorian calendar, you've got other sorts of calendars, but you see the most prominent one being that one that is measured according to his existence. It's like his existence defined that. It changed the way time was measured, or it was the way time was like recorded. So I could tell that, okay, so Jesus is estimated to have lived 2025 years ago, like if we're speaking in the modern day, right? And then, so that's around that era that he lived. We can make that estimation. So he actually did live, he actually existed. And then we're given a few information, like I've said, about his historical background and whatnot. About the geographical background, it was in the time when the Roman Empire was like spreading. They were conquering. I mean, we're familiar to the concept of colonialism. We've seen a lot of like maybe countries in the West, for example, conquer other countries, maybe in Africa. For example, my country is a colony of Britain. So I understand a bit of how empires spread. It's like the British Empire trying to spread its influence. And we are just one of the few countries that it did that to. So the same was the case actually in the Roman Empire. There was this city called Rome, which we know, which is in Italy, and then they start conquering land. And part of the land they conquered was the Israelites. So you see the cities that are mentioned where he was born, he's mentioned to have been born from Nazareth. So we could find an actual geographical location for such a place. You could go, even I think even now you could actually travel to Israel. There are some remains of maybe even his grave and the like that you can check, like, okay, this person really existed. It was in this portion of the earth where he was known to like have led his life. So his existence was there. The geographical location is really there. Like, okay, this is a place we can actually go to and check out. And then I got to learn more, to now go into details about the stories, the things that are written about him, the things that he said about himself. So I found Jesus to have been, his whole life and existence was something that was well planned and orchestrated. Before his coming, he was announced, he was prophesied. It's like he was publicized, like I say, okay, a person like this is coming, and then their life is going to be about this. His death, his life, even his birth was prophesied. How he was going to be born, how he was going to live, how he was going to die. It's like a lot of information was given such that when he came and he was living according to that, it's like there was a script that he was confirming. And most times when he fulfills one of the prophecies, the Bible actually mentioned it like, okay, and it came to pass that what was written in this part was fulfilled. So you see that a lot in the story of Jesus. So there was that information that was given that he was validating, like these things were actually said about me. So he was actually living out that script that was written, the book that was written of him. So yeah, for now I think I can go there because I can go on and on and on. I know I have a fellow panelist here. He's probably itching to get his own comment at it.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, that was quite like enlightening, because it got to a point in my life that I kept asking myself certain questions like, okay, I believe in this man called Jesus, right? That I did not even understand why I believed in him. I did not even understand like the reason, like I did not understand, how different is he from all of those great men, that have passed. But then you turn left, there are people talking about Jesus. You turn right, there are people talking about Jesus. Like literally everywhere you go, you hear the name Jesus, right? So to my second panelist, the question that I'm going to ask you, he mentioned something about a myth, right? I remember growing up in school also. It's actually funny how we believe certain things when we are quite, naive and do not know. I remember there was this storybook, right? And it was basically about how, the heavens were like closer to the earth. And there was this African lady who used to pound fufu. My Africans will understand me, in a kind of mortar, right, with the pistol. So the pistol was short because when he or she raises the pistol, it will touch the heavens and the heavens will push up. And for some reason, we believe that. Funny enough, we believed it in school. It was a book, in school that we studied, you know, the biggest myth. And so they said this lady was pounding and pounding and pounding. Then one day, she got like a longer pistol. So they pounded the fufu and the heavens. The clouds that we see over us, they shifted up. If you can believe something as, I don't even know how to term it, as low as that to be true, right? Why do we believe that Jesus is like a myth? Someone who has like a history on this earth, someone who, who literally has traces everywhere that, claiming to be who he is. And it might be difficult for some people to believe because somehow they do not even want to believe. They don't want to know. So my question is, like, what is a myth, and does Jesus classify as a myth?
Okay, this question still touches what he has said. He said a lot actually, and most of it has actually touched the question. Yeah, but one thing I would say is to doubt the existence of Jesus is to doubt the whole of history, the whole of human history, because there have been men and women who walked this earth, whom the larger part of the world believe existed, believe walked this earth, believe that they did so and so. They influenced empires, kingdoms, systems. They have no problem, right? Believing that those guys walked on this earth. If I should ask you, who is Abraham Lincoln? Okay, let's leave Abraham Lincoln aside. Your Okay, let's
Of
bring
course,
it
I know
home.
Abraham
A
Lincoln. We studied a lot about that man even in school.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
They influenced our countries a lot. Yeah, but if you pick a prominent figure in history, let's say a president of a country or a philosopher of an era, it's very easy for us to believe in them, use their materials, the things that they wrote, the things that were preserved about them, without asking questions. But when it comes to the name Jesus, the man Jesus, we question. And the funny thing is, I believe when you want to ascertain the existence of a thing, right, you should go back to the sources that talked about that thing, right? And in Jesus' case, we have the Bible as the major, right? There are other extra biblical writings that talk about that man Christ. But the major one is the Bible. Now, you have to veto the integrity of the Bible, leaving aside every form of bias, right? Every form of bias. And if you do that, you will find out that the Bible stands the test of time. It stands the test of history. Whatsoever litmus test you are going to apply to a historical book, maybe the history about Aristotle, about Socrates, all these people that we use their philosophies even in our days. Whatever you're going to do to the manuscripts, the writings of these guys preserved, you have to do that to the Bible as well. And you would figure, or if you do your research, you would find out that the Bible is more reliable historically than these books. Now, the idea of Jesus being a myth, of course, is a made-up story, right? We have things like the Greek mythology and the rest of them. They make up stories, bring in different things that somewhat are abstract. They do not really exist or never existed. They just, come up to either help people to make them feel better, just create fantasies and all that, because man has always been in search of answers. So they bring in a lot of things, form it together and keep that as a basis of belief and everything. Now the Bible passes the test. Any test you can take it through, the Bible passes it, and that Bible is the major source of the life of Christ, his birth, his death, his resurrection, everything. Now, even outside the Bible, because I know a lot of people, they wouldn't want to, if you go to extra biblical writings accepted by historians, I know why I'm saying this, you will see Jesus mentioned there, either in passing or in emphasis. He's mentioned there. So anyone in this century, in this 21st century, who does not believe Jesus existed, walked the earth, at least to the point of dying on the cross, let's leave resurrecting, for some other time, that he existed, he was born of a human like descent, walked the earth, died, that person is either ignorant, lacking the right amount of knowledge as pertaining that fact, or biased, or but Jesus is not a myth, in all wise speaking. The greatest minds in philosophy, the greatest minds in science, the greatest minds in history, all ascertain that he was a person who walked the earth, who died. The greater part of the philosophers believed to the point of his death. Now that is reason enough to downgrade or almost take away the fact that he's a myth. So the issue of, when we get there, the issue of his resurrection, everything that he claimed to be and to do, is a different discussion altogether.
Okay. Thank you so much. I mean, that was quite enlightening and all. Please, do you have anything to add on to what he said?
No, not really. I agree with what he said.
Okay, that is amazing. And also, I mean, I find something quite interesting and intrigued to the point that, I mean, I can see that you have, some form of relations, or you believe in this man called Jesus, right? And not just you, but him also. And I can see that, you've actually read about this man called Jesus. So you have that kind of knowledge, that the average person out there may not actually have, right? So I'm tempted to ask the question, why, why Jesus? Why Jesus? But I'm going to, I'm going to leave that question for our next episodes, definitely, because I also need answers. I know you need answers. I also need answers. So we are going to ask them together. Don't worry. But for now, I would like to know, people are all different, right? We are all different in the sense that we have that right. I choose who to believe in. I choose who to listen to. I choose who to like. I choose who to dislike. I mean, it's my choice. It's my free will, right? So, for people like us, before we round up this first part of it, what can you really tell us, to make us begin to try to at least find out about this person called Jesus, if everything that was said about this man was ever even true?
You go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
What can I tell you to
I
help
think you should be talking to our viewers.
to help you find out that to help you find out more about this Jesus? You see, at the end of the day, this is your faith, this is your life. It usually affects you mostly, if not you alone, but you to the greatest extent. You lose nothing by trying to find out. You see, there's a reason why I gave you a background of my faith. Like, I didn't claim to be Christian because I was born and I had this supernatural revelation as a baby. Like, wow, yes, Jesus. No, not really. I became Christian because my parents were Christian. My family are Christian, so I was born into the church. Probably if I was born into a Muslim family, I would be Muslim. So I feel like most people who belong to a religion, right, are in that religion, on average at least, because of their background. Maybe because especially because you were born into a family that is part of that religion. But I feel like, okay, that is justified. You're just a child. You are being mentored. You are being groomed by your guardians, whether it's your parents or whoever keeps you, like whoever molds you, your guardians, even your educators, like your teachers in school and whatnot. The information that you're exposed to, the communities that you are exposed to, what faith do they really favor? Like, what religion do they really advocate for? So you are likely to lean towards that because as children we grow up with this level of confidence in adults. Like, what the adults say is the truth. So of course you are born into a family where the people you look up to most, which are your parents, are Christians. So if they tell you there's a God, you believe, okay, there's a God. Whatever they told you about Jesus, you believed. So, but at the end of the day, I had to come to this point where I asked myself these things. What do I really stand for? What do I believe in? Why do I believe in Jesus? Why Jesus? And then why not Islam? Why can't I be a Muslim? There are Muslims out there, there are Hindus out there.
Or a traditionalist.
A traditionalist.
Or an atheist.
Exactly, like I could be anything I want actually. So why this thing? So I had to get to a point whereby, okay, quite alright, so far as I've lived, I have known this faith, this kind of religion, but why should I continue believing in it? I still had the freedom to change. So I feel like it doesn't hurt to check out information out there. These days information is more easily accessible, like you have the internet where it's an ocean of information really. Whatever information you want is out there. So it's just about you going there to seek. Like, study about this Jesus. He mentioned about the Bible being the main source, but he also talked about non-biblical texts, like non-biblical information. That's something that you can also factor in case you think there would be bias in information if you use the Bible alone. So I'm someone who's actually questioned the credibility of the Bible. Like, I asked myself questions like, what are the odds since the time that the Bible was authored that it's remained unchanged? Looking at how much opposition it's faced. The people of God, if you look at the history of the so-called children of God in the Bible, it's a history of persecution really. Like, these people are fought against in a lot of generations. From Egypt to Babylon to Rome, like, they're persecuted a lot. You don't really see their freedom. It actually ends like that. Even in the New Testament, the new disciples, look at how they used to die. It's literally a story of persecution. So what are the odds that their writings were left to be just that, given the kind of opposition they used to get was from organs of authority like governments of generations who didn't like them? And you're talking about lawmaking bodies in countries who don't like a certain group of people, a certain teaching, right? These guys can literally, the way I can say maybe media is controlled, these guys literally control the flow of information. They could easily tune that context for their political gain because they know the power of religion on a society. So I asked myself, what are the odds? You look at the Holocaust, like Hitler slaughtering the Jews. If a man of such hatred towards such a faith would exist, why not burn it to make sure that this thing never crosses into posterity, into future generations? So, but like he said, it's a book that has endured. It's really outlived a lot of information out there, like it's still here. So I might not give the answers I got to all these questions that I asked for, but these are things I've asked myself. I've gotten to a point where I've questioned the credibility of the Bible. I've questioned my own morals and values, like what are my morals, what are my values, what do I believe in as a human being, and why do I uphold those particular things? Or do I just get them because it's the status quo, because, respect. If I choose respect, it's something that is widely admired in society, or it's something that I value as a person. So I had to throw away everything I had known and then start to learn new things, to start to redefine things for myself. Like, there's a point where the influence of childhood has to end, and you have to start thinking for yourself, and you have to start asking yourself the right questions. So to answer your question, I feel like curiosity is necessary. Just the bare existence of a lot of religions should strike a certain level of curiosity on you. Like, I'm Christian, but there's a lot of religions out there. So me who strongly believes in this Jesus, and then there's a person out there in another religion who strongly believes in their God. They are so convinced, the same way I'm convinced about my Jesus. So there has to be something about that. So I made it my cause. Like, I'll actually research even on the scriptural context of other religions. Like, what is it that you read in these books that makes you so convicted about this God of yours? Maybe it could be because I read the Bible so much and whatnot, but I had to give a fair shot to every religion. You have to study every claimed God that's out there, because at the end of the day, I feel like the mere existence of multi-religions, right, is a sign of man's hunger for God. Something missing in man. There's something. So others have created their own gods just to fill that gap, to fill that void in them. And I don't know, since I've never been part of another religion, I don't know how satisfied they are. So I'm not one to judge or say I don't think they really get their full satisfaction, but I can say that in following Jesus, I do have that void is filled, of course. So I don't think it would hurt to check out information for yourself. Like, you have to ask yourself the right questions that help you as a person at the end of the day, because you don't want to live for nothing. You don't want to live believing a lie. You don't want to live a lie. Because faith is really a cardinal point of a person's life that determines their whole behavior, their life choices, their dreams, their visions. It really influences all those things, you know. The partner of choice that you get, the career, some of them even the careers they pursue, the goals they pursue in life. So you really want to make sure that what I'm really basing my convictions on is the truth. So I feel like just simply for the sheer reason of truth, check out this information. Just try. I'm not telling you to say believe in Jesus. I'm just telling you, try him. Just learn about him and let him prove himself to you. I don't have to do that for him. Yeah.
That's profound. Yeah, and whatever I'm going to say is still going to go in that line. You know, he was talking and he mentioned something. I had to go get a quote related to it. He mentioned curiosity, and there's this quote we all know. It says "Curiosity killed the cat," but you know that's not the full quote. The full quote is "Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back." Could it be that in your search or whatever your curiosity pushes you to go out for, along that line you would get to find the truth about it? Yeah. What I would say is that you can't stand nowhere. It's just impossible, because you not believing in anything is actually you believing in not believing in anything. So at the end of the day, you have a belief, but you just don't know it. But I think, like you said, give it a try. I believe the first question she asked me, I said that everyone gets to that point where they start asking questions, and if you're at that point where you're asking questions, start searching. Yeah. So I want you to carry out your search like a very famous doctor in times past, Dr. Luke. Yeah. I haven't quoted any scriptures since we started talking, so it would be okay if I end with at least one scripture. Listen to this. This is just a proof that belief, right, it does not have to be blind. It can stand on reason. Actually, it can stand on reason. Faith is not necessarily blind. It can stand on reason. Listen to the opening statements of one of the books in the Bible, written by a physician, a doctor, Dr. Luke. He says, many have undertaken to draw up an account of the things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the first were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. With this in mind, since I myself, I want you to carry out your search, your research, your curiosity like the doctor. He says, with this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning. He carefully investigated everything from the beginning. This is a historian, a doctor, and he did it carefully, diligently searching to find out the truth of the whole matter. He says, I too decided to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the certainty of the things you have been taught. So I want you to take a stance, even as you go in search of either the doctor, Dr. Luke, or Theophilus, whom he was addressing, whatever he wrote to. The stance of the doctor is to carefully investigate the things that are going around, the things that they are throwing around, and not just believing on just mere hearsay, but he actually tested the waters to find out whether these things actually are true. And then the stance of Theophilus is to go to someone whom has done the research, whom has done the work to find out the truth. So my advice, search the scriptures. You are at a place of doubt, search history, search with men who have done their research. And I believe if you are really searching for the truth will find you. Yeah.
Okay, so we heard it, people. Let's do a diligent. I actually have a lot of questions, because there were things I picked up whilst they were talking. But, this is just a beginning. This is just an introduction of what we are going to dive into as even time goes on. I believe you guys have questions. Yeah.
There's a lot more to actually talk.
There's a lot more to actually talk about, because we must understand this man Jesus. And so stay tuned even in the upcoming episodes, and don't forget, if you have any question at all, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I promise you it's gonna be answered. Thank you for your time, and see you on the next episode.